Football may have been on the sidelines for a bit of time, but discussions on football have continued to operate at full throttle on our One Play Sports networks. And joining me for an enthralling discussion on the development of grassroots level football in India is a star studded lineup that comprises Shaji Prabhakaran, who's the president of Football Delhi, Gary Udvani, who's involved in international business development with La Liga, Nathaniel De Costa, senior manager at the Forza Goa Foundation, and Moria Sethupandian, under 19 head coach at Chennai City FC. Gentlemen, before we get into the serious stuff, I have to ask you guys, how happy are we about the fact that football's back on the menu? Of course, the major European leagues, the La Liga, Serie A, the Premier League, back in action. In India also, slowly but surely, I'm guessing coming closer to the resumption of football in other sports as well.
I was really excited to see football back on the menu. Even though I'm not a big fan of the Premier League, I actually support Madrid and the La Liga. So having football again is fantastic. To have the conversations, to have the banter, and all of that on groups again. It feels good. It feels like life is coming back to normal again.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And I'm guessing you must be happy as well. You said you're a Madrid fan. Madrid, right behind Barcelona. I think level on points. If Madrid do win the game in hand,
top of the table. Yeah, top of the table right now with the game in hand. I mean, 3 points behind. But if we win, looking forward to another La Liga trophy.
Absolutely. Shaji, sir, I'm going to kick things off with you. You being the senior statesman amongst all of us. So you did write a book. It's called Back to the Roots, a definitive guide to grassroots and football development. Could you just briefly touch upon some of the topics that encompass grassroots level football? Because I think it's definitely going to help us set what the purview of this discussion is.
Thank you for having me, and you are discussing on my book to begin with. Is absolutely great pleasure for me and a privilege. The book is predominantly focused on grassroots. The structure, how it should be structured, how it should be organized, how the coaches should deal at the grassroots level, and what all ingredients it should have so that the base continues to grow, base continues to get strengthened, base continue to get promoted and protected, and it really the fundamentals of the game is at the grassroots level. And if the grassroots is strong, therefore the whole of football pyramid becomes stronger. So therefore the book talks about a lot of best practices and how in any given situation a grassroots should be the focus and always should be the focus, and it is not just one time investment. It has to go on and go on, and it should never stop. So therefore if one reads into every aspect of every chapter of the book, every chapter you will find certain references where why the grassroots football should be the focus, and why and how it should be strengthened, how it should be handled, how it should be supported. So therefore in every way this book is very comprehensive, and it can be used from whether it is South America, whether it is North America or Asia, Europe, anywhere, everywhere this book will be of use. And that is what my experience is right now, that the book is widely used across the globe right now.
Absolutely. And I think you published the book in November 2016, so it's been nearly 4 years since you published the book. So later on in the conversation, I would actually love to hear from you on some of the progress that we've seen so far in Indian football, at grassroots level football here in India. But we'll get back to that. Gary, I'll come to you now. So look, the La Liga has been in India now for slightly over 3 years. I believe in February earlier this year is when you guys celebrated your third anniversary in India. Since then, the progress that the La Liga has made in India has been absolutely phenomenal, has been absolutely staggering. I was seeing some of the wins that you guys have accumulated under your belt. But something that I really want to focus on is about your La Liga flagship program, which is the La Liga Football Schools, which was launched in October 2018. So I believe you're nearing the completion of 2 years. And I think over the course of the last 2 years, you've engaged about 10,000 kids through these football schools. So tell me about how much traction this has gained, some of the early wins that you've actually accumulated under your belt through the La Liga flagship program.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me also here for this webinar. So as you just mentioned, Anubhav, like we launched La Liga Football Schools around October 2018. It's already we're gonna complete around 2 years in this program. Just to go back to the present, how we are currently, as you know, due to the lockdown in the country, we've had to reinvent ourselves in terms of the circumstances which are now currently happening in India. We've currently moved from our on-ground programs to our e-training program. So we have currently developed under La Liga Football Schools our La Liga Football Schools at Home program, where we are currently executing online programs to our students. We have currently reached around 1,500 students already since March, since the lockdown began in the country. And the good thing of this is we're reaching to new people, new kids who are currently also wanting to play, wanting to learn about the methodology of La Liga. Going back to the past, of course, we as I said, we launched in October 2018, and currently we have, well, before the lockdown, we had 31 centers. We work with in school and after school, which means that in school we work closely to our schools, to different collaborations with different schools around India, and after school is like the typical program we have, which is pay and play. The main objective of this is what we've currently developed under La Liga Football Schools is creating a platform for more people, more kids, more students to play the actual game. It is important for them to have this infrastructure, have this platform where they can join us, learn from our methodology, learn from La Liga's methodology, and above all, which is very important, and I always say, is learn and gain experience. They have to have fun in order to try to increase their level, and you never know what can happen. And of course, it's just play, learn, have fun, and yeah, many people want to reach a professional, but it's actually very hard. In Spain,
Absolutely.
it's like a 0.1% reach a professional, but it's just having fun, which is important for us.
Right. And before I move to Nathan, would love to ask you, how has the program been so far over the last 2 years? Would you call it successful? Are you definitely thinking of expanding some of the outreach through this program?
Definitely. We are already currently present in 14 different cities. And with this online program, we're currently reaching more. So we're expanding to new cities where we didn't have our online programs. So yeah, we are currently expanding. And apart from what we're doing important activities under the umbrella of La Liga Football Schools, such as, for example, every year we take four students from our schools to Spain to train with a La Liga club. Last year, we had 4 students who were chosen under some practices, trials we did in different regions, in different camps we organized around Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi. We took these 4 kids to train with the La Liga club, which was Leganés last season during 15 days, with the objective of, as I mentioned again, having fun, learning, and gaining experience from the kids in Spain. This year, we also had 4 students chosen. We had 2 girls and 2 boys who were going to fly to to Valencia, but unfortunately, due to this lockdown, we've had to postpone it. So we're doing a lot of activities under La Liga Football Schools, which is with the main objective, of course, expanding our program.
Absolutely. That's absolutely phenomenal and fantastic. I believe Girona FC came to India as well in July of 2018, right? Yeah. So I'm loving the fact that you guys have these collaborations and exchange programs. Nathan, coming to you, based on my extensive research, I learned that you worked at Goldman Sachs as well. I was a Goldmanite, so it's good to actually speak with a former fellow Goldmanite. But let's talk football right now. So I know that the Forza Goa Foundation, right? You've been there for about 3 years, slightly over 3 years now. You guys have the biggest grassroots level football league in Goa, and one of the biggest ones in India. So talk to me more about this league. What have you guys achieved so far? What's the objective through this program? Nathan, are you there? So I think Nathan, yeah, he's frozen, but hopefully he can sort out the technical issues sooner rather than later. But I'll skip him for the time being, and I'll come to Moria. Moria, look, fascinating, the partnership between Chennai City FC and FC Basel. FC Basel, of course, has a 26% stake in the club. And since this partnership was established, I believe there's been an extensive sharing of knowledge, of resources between both clubs. Massimo Ceccaroni, right, who was the head of the academy at FC Basel for 9 years, has now permanently shifted base to India. So that's a big win for Chennai City FC, as well as for youngsters in India who are looking to make it big at the club level, at the international level. Talk to me more about this partnership. I think it's still early days, but how's it trending so far?
Yeah, once again, hi to all, and thank you for having me. So about this partnership, so FC Basel are here to help Chennai City FC with their support, technical support, mostly in the youth department. So that's why Massimo is here. Massimo, if you don't already know, was a former player for FC Basel. He played throughout his career for FC Basel. He signed with FC Basel as a 6-year-old. He he was in their academy. Then he played professional football for them. He played in the Champions League, Europa League, in the Swiss league, and another interesting fact is that his number was retired. It's one of the only two numbers to be retired. His number, the number 2 and the number 12
That's
for the
right.
club. So he's kind of a cult hero, a legend in FC Basel. So, and then moving on, he went into coaching, and then later he was the head of the academy at FC Basel for the past 9 years, like you said. And then, him moving here is a big statement. So they are very serious about it.
And you've been working very closely with him, right? Especially on the scouting front. So what is some of the work that you guys have done on the scouting front?
So we've been not just scouting, we've been kind of preparing ourselves to set up this academy. So we're setting up a new residential academy for Chennai City. And one of the things that we did is the scouting, looking for players for the youth program. But also we've kickstarted the coach-to-coach program. That is FC Basel's coaches sharing their knowledge with the Chennai City FC coaches, youth coaches.
That's right.
So that's been going on as well.
Brilliant. Nathan, coming to you, I was mentioning, I'm not sure if you were able to hear me, but I was mentioning that I believe you worked at Goldman Sachs as well, right? So we're both former Goldmanites. Talking about football, which is the topic of discussion today. I know the Forza Goa Foundation has the biggest grassroots level league in Goa, and one of the biggest ones in India that you guys are running. So talk to me more about these tournaments that you guys hold for both boys as well as for girls.
Right. So it's called the Little Golf League because is like the main the animal and the logo that's on our logo at the club. So we call it the Little Golf League. We started it 2 years ago. In the first year, we divided the league into two zones. That is the north, like Goa is basically divided into north, south, east, and west because it's a very small state. So we had it in two zones. We had around two age groups. That's the under 8 and under 10. And the main aim of the league was to, of course, to increase participation and get children used to competitive football on a regular basis. So in Goa, what happens is at a school level, there are tournaments, a lot of opportunity for children to play, but they are like I said, tournaments. So if they have a bad day or they have a bad game, they get knocked out, and that's it. That's the end of the tournament for them. So if a team is not playing regularly, or not advancing through a tournament, they are playing around 3 matches a season, and that's about it. So the idea behind the league was to give them competitive opportunities to play on a weekly basis, get coaches involved, get the parents and community involved. We're happy to say that it has actually grown over the last year. Last year we increased the number of centers to include Vasco, which is another zone. So we had a north, central, and south zone, and we increased age categories. We had an under 6, under 8, under 10, and we also started at under 12 solely for girls. The reason we did that was the first year when we started, the league was open for boys and girls to participate. It was supposed to be a mixed league team, but we noticed that not a lot of girls were participating. We had around 8 girls participating in the first year. And by opening the league to an exclusive under 12 girls category, we had around 260 plus girls coming in and joining and playing the game. So, which was really important and which is really good to see.
Absolutely. Mr. Prabhakaran, in your book, I believe you had a roadmap that you laid out such that, Indian football can actually become massive at the grassroots level. Can you just talk to us about some of the salient points that were part of that roadmap that you laid out? And then we can actually get into how we actually achieving some of those points that you laid out and where are we exactly lacking. But for starters, you can actually talk about the salient points that belong to that roadmap or that blueprint that you had laid out.
Unfortunately, I haven't put anything on Indian football as such, but what I have shared in the book is applicable to each and every geography. Yeah, it was not India specific. But coming to India, there is already a roadmap put by the All India Football Federation, and that's the book is called Lakshya. That was published in 2012 by then technical director Rob Ban, and it contains the complete roadmap. What I have to share here is the all the work all this organization is doing, like Forza Goa, and the La Liga and Chennai City. Uh, Likewise, there are many organizations which are now focusing lot at the grassroots level, and that is key. And the important thing is now is how we can collaborate and come to a point where we really understand what is happening across the country and what are the gaps, because
Right.
we need to spread the game to every look and corner of the country, and this game must reach to the village as well, because now most of the activities are concentrating only at the urban localities, and the villages are really not connected to football at maybe few, but not at an organized level. And that is where football has to reach, and that is where we will be able to justify what the population we have. Still, the number of children playing based on the population we have is still not enough. We need to have 20 million to 60 million kids playing football, and that would be the base we need to create, and that's how we will become a talent hub for the world, and that is a potential we have. And some of these great works need to be replicated across the country, and we need to connect and build a structure. Right now still the structure is there, but the structure is not well rooted to every corner of the country, and that is where we need to have collaboration, so that every resources we can pull in and see how we can touch more and more kids, and that is very important. If more kids play, we will ultimately see a better society in every way, and definitely we will find few talent which would be of will ultimately become superstars, and that is what we need. And if that happens, we will never struggle to find player of that level, where the La Liga will think, okay, how the La Liga clubs will think how we'll recruit from India. Right now it is not happening that way. We are looking to Spain to find players for our league, and that has to
Right.
change in another 10 to 15 years time. It
Mhm.
cannot happen so fast. We really need to work hard at every level, and grassroots is one aspect, but going forward, how we put an elite player development structure, that is still is not there. It's some players the players are still coming by accident, not by design. That is what is happening. But I am sure these ISL clubs, once they get strengthened, they have resources. They will put resources into player development as well, and we will see more clubs in our structure who would focus on developing players, and that is where we will produce a winning team which will dominate in Asia.
Absolutely. It's fascinating what you mentioned. You talked about how players are coming by accident, not by design. Of course, taking nothing away from the massive success that we've achieved already, right? But we should be honest about the fact that there's still work left to be done, right? Gary, I think you have a beautiful view in the sense that you've seen what the lay of the land looks like in Spain, and now you have a good sense of what it's like in India as well, based upon feedback that you must be hearing from some of the coaches that are part of the La Liga football schools, based upon your visits to India as well. What do you think is the fundamental difference for these kids starting out? Is it the mentality? I do know that in Spain, you start playing football pretty much when you're as early as you're able to walk, right? In India, that might be the case for cricket, not for football. In football, you might have to be forced to actually get into it. So, is it the mentality when it's starting out? Are parents not encouraging their kids enough, or is cricket too big a competitive factor as well?
I think apart from mentality, it's more like platforms, creating platforms for children to help them participate, play this game, and of course learn from this. As Mr. Saji said, right, we have to create a proper structure where we can't only focus on urban areas, go to the villages. So we have to create this platform where kids also in the villages can participate and learn from the sport. We're doing this with our e-training programs. Of course, it's not the on-ground program what we currently do, but we're reaching to new people who would never have the chance to participate unless they have this platform. But with this e-training, they're learning, doing some physical, tactical, technical, mental habits. We're helping them with nutrition also. And I think something very important which is happening currently in India and I've been seeing during these 2 years is also the All Indian Football Federation is currently focusing a lot on the baby leagues. I think it's very important what they're doing because they're creating platforms, proper structure in different areas, in different areas of the country where it was not possible to reach before. And yeah, kids are playing, kids are having fun. As I said, they have to have fun in order to enjoy this game. And I think something very important also is, which is lacking in India, is the competition. Kids, apart from having the chance to play, learn, train in the platforms which are currently developing in the country, they have to have the chance to compete. Because whenever you compete, you learn real situations of the game. You learn how to face the situations of the game. So it has to be a proper structure at the grassroots. But as Mr. Saji said, if we have a proper grassroots structure, the professional football will also grow. So it's a process, and it's a process which will definitely take time, but we have to have patience. And I think during these 3 years I've been already living in India, I've seen a huge change.
Absolutely. And I believe the La Liga football schools, right? You guys have already established bases in multiple cities all across India. But I'm guessing slowly but surely, you also want to enter into some of the rural and the village territories as well, right?
Definitely.
Once you've sort of established a wide base in the major cities, which you've already done.
Yeah, definitely. So we're already working with this metropolitan areas, right, where we know our target audience is there. But slowly we're gonna increase. We're gonna focus in these villages, in rural areas. It's a slow process. We cannot focus very quickly in different states, in different cities, but
Right,
it's a slow
right.
process. We've seen that there is an audience because, as I said, with this e-training we've done, we reach in a month 350 360 new students from areas where we never had these physical trainings. So we've
Right,
seen people
right.
already registering to our program, registering to our e-training. So we know we have targets already there. We have kids wanting to learn our methodology. So slowly we will definitely help them and reach these areas where it was impossible to reach before because we didn't even know that existed. Like we didn't even know that there was a target. And with this online program, we're seeing that they really want this. They want to learn the methodology and learn about the game, of course.
Absolutely. And, we spoke about certain communities being underserved, or kids in India being underserved. I think more so children who are girls in India. Nathan, I do know that the Force of Goa Foundation has a program. It's called Girls Score Goals. So I believe that's a tournament
right.
that you guys host perhaps every year, every season, just to encourage female participation. And it's an all girls tournament. Tell me a bit more about the initiative. And I believe based on some of the pictures that I saw on Instagram, I think girls have really taken to the tournament like a fish takes to water.
So Girls Go Gold is a campaign. It's not an individual tournament. So it's a campaign that we are pushing out to try and get more girls to come and play the sport. It's spread across. Besides just getting girls to play on, like children coming and playing on the field, we also have trying to increase the number of female coaches. Because when we started out the programs around 4 to 5 years ago, our programs were always inclusive. We always wanted girls and boys to come and train and play. But we realized that not a lot of girls were coming to the field. So when we started asking questions, started talking to the parents, to the school teachers, to the physical education teachers. One of the key things they said was that we don't have enough female coaches. So that's when we put a concerted effort to start training. We started doing D licenses for women. We started doing community coaching programs for women. We hired, we had around 15 coaches, which were all male. So we made an effort to hire female coaches within our program. We have now two female coaches, one in the north and south. And like I said, whenever we see a gap to that women are not coming out, we try to understand what is the systematic gap that is there within the environment and try and address that. We don't just say, okay, we have a campaign or we have a project. We try and see and understand what is the issues, underlying issues that the community is facing, and then we try and address those gaps through our programs.
And what are some of those issues that you were referring to? What are maybe the one or two major ones that you've seen so far based on experience?
One, like I said, we don't have enough female coaches, and two, we don't have the infrastructure ready. For example, we in Goa we have a lot of football grounds, but we don't have changing rooms at the grounds. We don't have toilet facilities at the ground. For a boy, a young boy, he can come and play. He can change anywhere or go to the washroom anywhere. I mean, that's how we use it in India. But for a girl to come and do that is not possible. And
Makes sense.
those are questions or issues that we don't even think about. Like we only started addressing those issues when we started finding out about these issues, when parents started
Understood.
talking to us, when girls started talking to us about these issues. And now we have another campaign called Fields of Dreams, where we are trying to find investors to go and set up fields. You know, when we have good ground, we want to do more than just have them as playing pitches. We want the community to come in and use the ground. We want to set up changing rooms, washrooms, storage facilities. So these grounds can be used and accessed by everybody, not just boys, but girls, children with different abilities, children with mental health issues. Anyone can come in and use those grounds. That's the aim of what we want to do.
Absolutely. And Gary, Nathan did speak about a couple of issues and how the Forza Goa Foundation has actually addressed some of those issues after they came to the surface. Would you echo his sentiments? Because I believe even the La Liga Football Schools has partnered with the Vicente Ferrer Foundation in promoting football amongst young girls, especially in rural areas such as Anantapur. Am I right?
Yeah. True. No, we're also focusing a lot on everything related to foundation and whatever anything relation to women's football. For us, it's something very important. We have to enhance this. For example, with La Liga football schools. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, so for example, with La Liga football schools, jumping onto that again, we are now also seeing a lot of girls also training with our program. Just to mention what I just said before, right? That this year we were taking two girls to
Absolutely.
train with the La Liga club, to train with Levante in Valencia this season. So they have a huge potential. They know the sport, they know the game. So we're focusing a lot on women's football. And with the Vicente Ferrer Foundation, also we're working currently with this foundation in order to enhance women's football. And also we're focusing a lot on in terms of coaching, as Nathan said before. It's important because there's a lack also of facilities, and in terms of
Right.
coaching and education for women. And with Vicente Ferrer, apart from training with kids, giving them the support, we're also implementing coaching education systems with Vicente Ferrer, where we're educating not only women's but also men's football in terms of how to in terms of coaching, everything related to coaches, because there's a huge lack of coaching education systems in the country. Coaches are not well prepared for this, and we've seen that there is opportunity there to show them, because if football grows in the country, La Liga grows. So we invest also currently a lot in this aspect.
Absolutely. You spoke about facilities, you spoke about infrastructure. That's always sort of the elephant in the room whenever we're
Yes.
having a discussion on the development of football in India. But that's also a good segue to my next question for Moria, because I do believe that Chennai City FC is in the process of building a state of the art facility in Coimbatore. So, how big of a difference will it make to the development of young talent once this facility has been built in Coimbatore?
Obviously, it's going to make a huge difference. because you see in Chennai we don't have too many fields, too many facilities of really good quality, even for the senior football. So I think, and I think it's a problem that exists in all urban cities. So we don't have enough space or enough grounds that we can use, and that's one of the reasons why we had to move to Coimbatore. And yeah, we're hoping it's going to make a huge impact.
Brilliant, brilliant. Mr. Prabhakaran, I'm going to ask you a question before we actually take a few questions coming in from the audience. So an appeal to all members who are watching right now, please do send in your questions. We have plenty of time for Q&A. But Mr. Prabhakaran, the question that I want to ask you is, and this is a question that keeps pricking me, so when I was first thinking of certain points that I want to discuss in this discussion, this is something that came to my mind. Of course, we speak a lot about facilities, we speak about infrastructure. We also cite perhaps, not being as physically strong as maybe the Europeans or people in the West, which could be one of the reasons why we haven't quite progressed as quickly as maybe some of the Western countries have when it comes to football. But if you look at the examples of, say, China and South Korea, right? Both countries have produced solid talent that have actually gone on to play in some of the biggest European leagues, and not just the biggest European leagues, but the biggest clubs in those biggest European leagues. So, what are countries that are neighbors, like the likes of China and South Korea, doing differently compared to what India is doing right now, and how can we actually close the gap?
I think I won't put China there, but yes, Korea Republic, Japan, they are. China has just started, 5 6 years. They are focusing on big time. They have put a lot of resources into grassroots and player development. But if you look into what Japan is doing, what Korea is doing, that is where India need also to, put their mind and see what are the best practices there. It is not something rocket science, but the simple
Mm-hmm.
things. The first is to put the structure in place, which is very important. When I talk about structure, it is from the grassroots to your pro level, and that is a clear pathway. And each sector in your pyramid, each phase of your pyramid has to be strong, has to be strengthened, has to have the right resources, has to have the right focus, and it has to progressively grow. And you have to
Right.
work with a vision. Yeah. And what is we need is a vision. And vision itself is not enough. You need to have the right strategy and the action plans, and matched with resources as well. You might have a vision to qualify for the World Cup, but you don't have the right action plans and resources, and not putting the right strategy into it, then you will never
Right.
achieve whatever the vision you might have. So what we need is a long term vision, yeah, and focus on each aspect of our pyramid. So when I talk about pyramid, what we already touched, the grassroots, how we can strengthen the grassroots, how we can put more energy into it, put more resources into it, put more children can play into it. And then comes to the youth part. Yeah. Youth has two segment. One is the youth, and then one is goes to the elite youth. So therefore elite youth requires tremendous resources, where sports science is a key, the facilities are key, because we still don't have that kind of facilities where you produce that level of players. The sports science, the sports analytics still at a very very infancy stage in our football.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the ISL clubs are using it, but still for the player development at the elite level we don't have. And the competitive structure is absolutely not there, because where you scout your player if you don't have a competition. Competition doesn't mean you play 5 games in a year, or 10 games in a year.
Right.
And majority of the talents, those who are real talent, they really don't get even the right coach. They are not part of the program, they don't even get the games. Therefore how you scout? Normally we still scout organizing selection trials, which is absolutely primitive. So therefore what we, and the bigger aspect is how we are not still collaborating. The government is now coming with a lot of support, because we are organizing FIFA under 17 World Cup. We organized one. We are
Mm-hmm.
will organize the
Yep.
women's part one. How we pool in resources, work as one, and that is very important, because the government resources, when they are putting in, it has to go to the right place, so that you are working with one vision, a common vision, and therefore everyone in the system would know what are my responsibilities, what I have to do, and that is
That's
what
great.
we still lack. And I believe, but this is work in progress, because we cannot really
Absolutely.
blame anyone, because we as a football uh, development country is just 5-6 year old. Yeah,
That's right.
therefore we are still trying in a primary school. Yeah, and we still have to go to, in Indian situation we say IITs or IIMs or ISB. Yeah, so that
Right.
is, we have to go there, and then we will be competitive, and then our players will also be of that level, and we'll be able to compete at first at the Asian level and at the global level. So we have to do a lot of work, and consistent work, and with integrity, because there is a lot of nepotism in the system. There is a lot of things which are primitive, and we need good people in the system,
That's right.
and that is what we require. So we need to create a
Absolutely.
system which is enabling, which is motivating, which is encouraging, and we have to justify we are a country of 1.35 billion when we deal, manage and administer football. That is what is required, and I think this will happen because more and more people are coming, more and more people are investing into it. So there's a progress we are making, but it's a long way to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you brought up a very captivating point when you said, every part of the pyramid has to do its role, only because, if one part fails, then that can serve as a bottleneck and prevent, the progress upwards, along the hierarchy. A question that's come in from the audience, Vipul, Sachdeva, who's asking us this, and Gary, you're the best person to answer this. Very interesting question. And Vipul asks, the kids who were taken to Spain to train with different clubs previously, how many of them were considered as great aspects for the clubs in the future? And were they asked to stay back? So what was the skill level like? What was the difference in skill level like between some of the kids who were taken from India and the kids in Spain?
So basically, we cannot confuse this as this is something like a platform where we're taking them to stay or something. No, first of all, we have to see it as a platform where we want kids to have a different experience where they learn, they see how the children from their age are currently training in Spain. So the process is quite complex because we start with regional camps held in Mumbai, in Bangalore, and Delhi, where we focus on these three areas where we have schools around the world, around India. Sorry. So, for example, one kid which was selected from the Surat Academy Surat goes to the Mumbai
Right.
regional camp. So we have 64 kids training in these regional camps: 64 in Bangalore, 64 in Delhi, 64 in Mumbai. After this, there's a process where we have our technical directors coming from Spain, our regional coordinators, sorry, also from Spain coming, evaluating these kids, and then we have the final process, which is our national camp, where we take the best 32 kids to this national camp held in New Delhi. It's a national camp in a residential academy we have during 3 days, where there is a lot of paces going on, tests where they're basically evaluated by our coaches. Important. They're not chosen only because of their technical skills, tactical skills, or quality. We also implement a lot of factors such as values, team spirit, sorry, coordination, the fact that they're coming every day to training or not. So it depends on that also. So it's not only in terms of quality, but we take a lot of factors into account to choose these players. So the basic objective is taking them to Spain, learning from them, training, and giving them a different experience, right? To just for them to have an idea on how it works in Spain. The objective is not keeping them there, but you never know, it can happen in the future. But it's
Right.
as our colleagues I was just discussing right now, no, it's a slow process where we have to improve, create a proper structure. There has to be a proper competition also behind. As Mr. Saji said, it's not having 5 6 competitive matches, it's having a proper structure around the year, and having them improve in this sense.
Absolutely. And there's a question coming in on Hello. This is Ajay, who's asking us, can you talk to us a bit more about how we can secure the financial future of aspiring footballs? How can we incentivize them to commit fully to a career in football without having to worry about the finances? I think Moria this might be a good question for you to answer, because I do know the Chennai City FC program, the youth program, is structured in such a way that you actually do promote them to educate and actually perhaps fund their education as well at the junior level as well as the college level, such that, in the event, in the unlikely event that they can't make it big, they can't go pro in football, they still have this degree or this education as part of the repertoire.
Yeah. So one of the things we agreed in the very beginning is that it's not just about football in the academy, and it's about also education, academics, and also the values that we're going to impart in the players. So I mean, we were very clear about that, and we call it the dual system. Academics and football go hand in hand. And I mean, we can talk about all the numbers and the percentages. Already that that are the very less percentage of players coming through the academies make it into professional football. So it's always like that, and to stay in professional football for a long time is also a hard task. So players need to be equipped with a lot of other skills and qualifications in order to survive. So that's what we're looking at. So but then to produce a star, you need a lot of other players also in the academy. So we know very well that if we have maybe 100 players coming out of the academy, maybe 10 make it big. Others, they're going to have to do something else. So it's just how it works. So the academy is not just to make these stars, but also to um, make sure all of these players that go out of the academy, their lives are sorted, and they're equipped with the necessary skills to lead their lives and be good citizens of the country.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And Pulkit Sankhala here asking us a question, and I guess anyone can answer this question. He's saying, it is understood that mental health development is paramount for youth programs. How much of it is considered in India? Is it put into practice? And I'll just give you my experience. So I was recently, when I say recently, this was about 6 months back, in early February, late January. I was in Dubai for a tournament. This was the Under 13 Dubai Intercontinental Cup, and this was the Spanish soccer schools that was hosting the tournament, and One Play Sports was the broadcasting partner. And you had the Under 13 teams of various different clubs from all over the world, the likes of Real Madrid, Arsenal, FC Barcelona, AC Milan, there at the tournament competing. And I was speaking with one of the youth team coaches of Real Madrid, and he mentioned to me that at a very, very early age, at the age of 10, 11, 12, these young players are working with sports psychologists, with psychiatrists at the club, just so that they can strengthen their mental fortitude. Because the worst thing that can happen is a player has lots of talent but doesn't quite live up to the talent, only because he or she wasn't mentally strong enough. So is this something that's being considered in India as well? Mr. Prabhakaran, you might be the best person to answer this, but I would love for others to chip in as well.
See, we are still at a very, very basic level of doing things, and maybe some of the academies, they might be doing this as part of their holistic development program, but it is our program are mostly coach centric. It is not very what I would say still evolved as a balanced program, and that is because of that structure what I was talking, and that what you say institutional driven programs. Because if it is institutional driven programs, then you will have this holistic part. Because if you go to a school, you're supposed to go through everything, and that is what holistic part is, and football must provide that opportunity, so that this mental aspect is taken care. Because though right now in 95% of cases these are handled by coaches, and more, and if they are the coaches are well versed in understanding these scenarios, they might be handling it. Otherwise this is one of the neglected areas in our football. And but what I feel is it has to be an integral part of the whole program, from the grassroots level, because that is where you a lot of dropouts when happens from one moves from 10 to 14. There are 70% of dropouts in football in India. I can say very clearly without having any statistics. That's a huge number, and majority of them maybe academic related, maybe they divert their attention to something else, and maybe something the pressure of competition and the psychological aspect as well, because they don't enjoy the game anymore. And so therefore what football need to give is, apart from football, everything, means including football, every aspect of the life must be taken care. And if football is holistically done, then we will be able to retain all of them into football, and throughout their life they will be part of football. And that is what the program should be. And if you read my book, it talks about that, because how to retain a child throughout their life, and that is how we should be able to handle a kid in every way. It is not only about a physical aspect or the technical aspect or a tactical aspect. The mental aspect is key, and how we handle them, the communication, the giving of freedom to children and empowering the children itself. Because many of the times we will see coaches so overpowering, they really don't give the freedom to the child to express. Even
Right.
on the pitch, when they dribble, the coach starts shouting, "Oh, why don't you give one touch? I want one touch." And a 10-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, that's gone. So that is all is the very basics of handling mental aspect. So this has to become a part of our coaching licenses to begin with, and then we should be able to put, once we have the resources, we should be able to put experts into our program, so that they will be able to handle, as you mentioned, of your Dubai's experience. That should
Right.
happen. But unfortunately right now the resources is one of the issue, and the structure is one of the issue, and the institutional based program. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm very glad you brought that up, only because so far in this discussion, we've pretty much been focusing on the kids, right? The young girls, the young boys, but we haven't spoken enough about the coaches. So it's good that Mr. Prabhakaran brought that up. And in fact, Abhinandan Mukherjee here is asking us a similar question. He's saying, can you talk about the importance of coach development in India to get better players? Because I was speaking with Vishal Uppal, former India Davis Cup tennis player, right? And this is what he had mentioned to me. I'm not sure if, something similar is relevant to football as well. He said, look, we definitely have more tennis academies now, right? You wanted infrastructure. We have infrastructure now. Now the tennis academy, especially in the major cities, at every nook and corner. But the one of the ill effects, or one of the negative side effects, is that now, because of so many academies, there have been lots of quacks. That's the word used. Lots of quacks who've actually entered the system. So people who pose to be coaches but don't quite have the credentials and the qualifications to be coaches, which sometimes inhibits the development of players. So is that something we ought to be wary of as well, when it comes to making sure that the coaches are quality coaches who are imparting their knowledge and wisdom into the players?
Should I? Who's?
Anyone can go for it. Go for it, Gary.
I can go. Yeah, I can just mention what we are currently doing in terms of La Liga football schools. Also, what I just, as I just mentioned, some minutes ago, for us, coach education systems create this platform for them is super important, because La Liga football schools is in India. We will come, we will go, we might go someday, I don't know. But the future of India is going to be relied on the coaches, right? The coaches are the future of football in India, not La Liga football schools, not really any competition. The coaches are key. So we are currently promoting a lot this sense that coaches are the future of the country. So we are creating, for example, just to give you an idea, we create every year one train the trainer program, which is based on bringing the 50 coaches we have, 50 local coaches we have around different cities in India, to a regional, to a national camp in New Delhi, in a residential camp we have, where they stay during 3 days. We have coaches from La Liga coming to Spain, implementing the methodology, showing them how we work, what we do in terms of coordination, feedback, advices. Not only, as we were just discussing before, right, the mental habits is super important. Show the coaches how to implement this to the kids, right? Because for us, enhancing healthy habits, mental habits is super important in terms of nutrition, what you should eat, what should you not eat, rest, everything related to the mind, values, sports advices. This is something that we implement a lot to our coaches. So we do every year one national camp, train the trainer program, where we bring all our coaches, and every 3 months we do a regional camp. So we create one regional train the trainer program in Mumbai, where we have everyone from the west, all the coaches from the west side of India, and all our academies coaches, all the coaches go there. The south we create it in Bangalore, and north in Delhi. So for us, it's something very important which we are focusing a lot on, because as I said before at the beginning, the futures of football will rely on the coaches and not on the league or any other institution. That is super important, I think.
Absolutely brilliant. We have a question from Alain De Costa, and I might ask his namesake, Nathan De Costa, to answer this question for me. So it's a long question, but I'm just going to summarize it. I like the last part of the question where he talks about, are foreign tours important for elite players to cope with other countries? I think what he means is, are these foreign tours, exchange programs, Indian players traveling abroad, perhaps players from abroad traveling to India, important to facilitate the development of some of these Indian players? I do know recently, I think this was late last year, there was this PLISL Football Cup that had taken place, and the Reliance Foundation Youth Champs had actually defeated the Manchester United under 14 team 1-0 in a tournament. Of course, it was Chelsea. I think Chelsea under 14, they went on to win the cup, but that was definitely a big upset. The Reliance Foundation team beating Manchester United. So I'm guessing these tournaments taking place between the youth level teams of different countries is definitely a step in the right direction. Provides good exposure to Indian youngsters.
Definitely. More than exposure is one of the key aspects of it, and the second thing is the young players know the level of competition, right? Because in Goa, I was reading an article about the Bangalore coach talking about how the Bangalore teams, the academy teams, are head and shoulders above everybody else within their local leagues. And that's the problem, right? If your local clubs are not having competition at a young level, if my FC Goa youth team is playing in the local league and they're thrashing every other team 6-0, 7-0, then there's no competition. There's complacency that can set in. So when you have international tournaments, when you have exposure trips, these children, these young players get to know the level of competition. They know where they stand, where they should be standing, the kind of football the other teams are playing, and that's why it's really, really important. I remember there used to be a Milk Cup a couple of years ago where the Indian national team used to be going and playing against other countries, and we used to always do well in the youth. In I think it was an under 14 tournament, and India used to actually beat a couple of the European countries. But then what happened then was that we used to stagnate between 14 and when they turned pro. Because while at that age, other countries go ahead in terms of their nutrition, in terms of their training, we still stagnated at that level. So then we understand, okay, if we can beat them at an under 14 level, but then when we come to a pro level, we're not even close. We understand the difference. We understand where we have to come in and step in and fix the underlying issues.
Absolutely. And this is something that Alain mentions as well, because if you read the first sentence, he says that Grassroots is developing in India, but is there enough competition after the age of 14 in India? So, you might say good development until the age of 14, after which, Nathan, as you pointed out, there might be a bit of stagnation. I want to end on a couple of different notes. So one of them being the importance of influencers now in promoting development of grassroots level football. I know, Gary, the La Liga has partnered with Rohit Sharma, a massive fan favorite here in India, given the fact that cricket is a religion and cricketers are gods or demigods. So how can certain veterans of the football industry, sports industry, influencers who are fans of football, who are football enthusiasts, play their role in promoting more and more kids to actually take up football?
So we've identified that for us since I've come, and I've been following, of course, as being born in Spain, but with Indian roots. I've known since kid, the importance of following not only a cricketer but a Bollywood actor also has, right? So everyone follows Bollywood and cricket, right, in the country. So we focus a lot on this, on also working with influencers, with the main objective of promoting the league. So we've tied up with Rohit Sharma. with the main objective of promoting our league or our broadcast, which is something regarding to marketing. But of course, we can also relate it a lot to grassroots. I think working with influencers is very important in order to promote the competition in grassroots and make more kids, more students from a young age start playing the sport. I think it's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my last question, we can end on a slightly lighthearted note. What are the respective clubs that we support? We can be slightly biased here, Mr. Prabhakaran. I think it's very evident you support FC Barcelona. That's the picture I saw on your LinkedIn. And I believe a lot of your recent posts on Twitter also were regarding Lionel Messi. So I think it's a. I'm pretty sure you support FC Barcelona. Barcelona, just slightly ahead of Madrid. There's some competition as well right now. Nathan is a big Madrid fan. Some war of words.
Uh,
Can we see that?
No, see, I'm basically an Arsenal fan, and my you know my the support to Barcelona is only because of Messi, because I follow Messi a big way,
Understood.
and that's what. And I've uh, flew few places to see Messi play, and that's what. But I'm a Arsenal fan. Unfortunately, we are down badly hit right now. Hopefully, we will come back. Maybe we have to prepare ourselves for the next season, and the transfer window is key for us. And hope at he will get the his budget to sign
Right.
two good players in every position, and that what is I'm looking forward.
Absolutely. And, speaking of signing players and extending contracts, David Luiz extended a contract with Arsenal earlier today. I'm not sure if that's good news or bad news for Arsenal fans. We've, we, we've already spoken about Madrid, so I'll briefly skip you, Nathan. But Moria,
Sure.
where does
Yeah.
your allegiance lie?
I've been a follower of Manchester United since childhood. Yeah, but lately I've been also following FC Basel for obvious reasons. So both teams
Right, right.
have a game tonight. So I've had a nap in the afternoon, all set for back-to-back matches tonight.
Absolutely. And FC Basel has seen some fantastic players coming out of its youth academy, the likes of Ivan Rakitic, Jordan Shaqiri, Granit Xhaka, Mo Salah. So we hope that their influence can actually help some of these some superstars from India to spring up as well. Gary, you belong to the La Liga, of course. I'm not sure if you're supposed to be bipartisan, but can you be
I'm a La
partisan
Liga
and mention
fan.
which club
I'm
that
a
you
La
support?
Liga. No, well, I support basically all the clubs, but I can just tell you that since kid, I've been following a lot my hometown team, which is Tenerife. We are currently in second division,
Okay.
so as you
Okay.
can say, it's not a good situation, but yeah, it's we're a humble team, but with the main objective, of course, going to first division as soon as possible.
Absolutely, humble team and a team with big hearts. My last question for everyone, because I think this applies to everyone, and it would be a travesty if I didn't talk about this. Belonging to a sports broadcasting platform, Aishwarya Jayaraman asking us, what about broadcasting the local matches or youth matches? Would it help in promoting the program? I am pretty sure, if kids do know, if young kids at the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 know that what they're going to be watched by many viewers all across the country. If parents can actually watch them in action, then that's definitely going to give them more impetus. And provide fuel to the fire to keep doing more and more and reaching greater heights, given the fact that they are getting recognition for their efforts.
Definitely, I for one think that broadcasting will definitely help promote the sport, get children excited. Like this year for our league, for instance, we just started pushing out the top scorers on Instagram. Just not even broadcast, just like small clips, video clips, or putting their photos up, or putting bites of what after a game, and that helps so much. Parents were started following the leagues on Instagram. They started asking us why you all haven't put up this thing yet. We're waiting for the updates. So once you have the broadcast coming in, there's interest, there's excitement generated. People want to know what's going on. You create a little bit of celebrity culture that everybody wants to follow in. Like the kids, they say, "Oh, he scored a goal now. I want to score a goal, or I want to play well, so I can come on the TV as well, or I can come on the channel, whatever." It helps create that excitement, which is really important at a grassroots level.
Absolutely. And Moria, I believe you might know this, but I was speaking with, we worked with Ashwin Simon, who's the media manager at Chennai City FC. And we had actually, One Play Sports had broadcasted the AFC Champions League preliminary round one qualifier between Chennai City FC and Al Rifa. And I was there commentating at that game. It was a fantastic experience for me. So I'm guessing you would perhaps echo Nathan's sentiments in the importance of actually broadcasting games, not just at the elite level, but also at
Yeah,
the youth level.
I think kids would love that kind of recognition. I think that will add fuel to the fire, like you said. And I think right now in these times, I don't think it's really a big expense to do that. Probably 5 years back, it would be a big cost. It might even burn holes in the
Mhm.
the organizers of a grassroots league or youth league. But right now, I think it's very easily doable in terms of cost. So I think that will help a lot.
Absolutely. And Gary, the La Liga football schools, do you guys have any plans in terms of perhaps broadcasting some of the work, some of the efforts of the La Liga football schools in India?
No, not yet. We don't have plans for this, but I think it's an important platform where, as the colleagues were just saying now, that creating this celebrity sense where kids will enjoy more and will want to do more stuff, right, and participate more, which is important. I think we have to take advantage of this because now we're moving from a more traditional broadcasting to a more digital broadcasting,
That's
right,
right.
where we have more digital platforms where the cost is much lower than what we have been usually seeing, right? So I think it's important and definitely have to take advantage in a future.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Mr. Prabhakaran, I'll close with your thoughts on this issue.
This is absolutely now is a fundamental part of the entire football management. When you organize a youth league or a grassroots league, if you can broadcast it, live stream it, it's absolutely make the whole environment better because it's helps multiple ways. Because the parents will have access to the game sitting at home or they are wherever they are traveling or at work, and then the scouts they cannot they can see these games multiple times and without even traveling to these locations. And then for the kid itself, their friend circle itself, it's a great moment when you see a live, or you have the video of you are part of that match. It really gives you that high, which is absolutely necessary. And it's a it is this videos, this live streaming remain, they look forward. You play a match every week, and then you live with that video for next 6 days, and see every time if you have scored a wonderful goal, if you made a wonderful pass, and if you made a best of dribble, and you have shown some encouraging tricks. Oh, that's what you will love to share, among your family, among your friends, among your schoolmates, classmates. And that is how you become viral. And there is where that sometime you find a star somewhere. And it's inspiring, and we must try to use this platform. And as all of you mentioned, this is now not that expensive. You need to factor in when you plan a league, how we can make it, if it is not entire league, at least 30% of the league is live streamed. And it's even for the partners, even for the sponsors, their visibility goes up. It's
Absolutely.
a multiple impact. It's not only so it's a very good tool to have today, and we must use it, and it's better.
Absolutely. Given the testing times that we're facing right now because of COVID-19, I'm pretty sure there are lots of stumbling blocks, but broadcasters can actually, convert some of these stumbling blocks into stepping stones as well. And they can be very innovative in some of their programming and their broadcasting. And you spoke about how young players, when they actually see themselves, when the matches are being broadcast live, it gives them the incentive to actually go back and watch their highlights clips and their live matches again. I'm just talking to a camera normally, but every time at the end of my broadcast, I spend the next 6 or 7 hours just watching myself on camera. So I can't believe, how much of an interest it would be for young children who are actually scoring goals and doing activity on the pitches to keep watching their best clips in on a retroactive basis. Brilliant, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on a One Play Sports Networks. It was certainly a very fascinating discussion. Very pertinent topics that we hit throughout the course of the chat, and the last 1 hour 65 minutes that we spent was certainly a very lucrative and productive hour in terms of the discussion that we have. So thanks again for joining us on a One Play Sports Networks.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Brilliant. It was our pleasure. Thank you so much. Great. So just a quick reminder to all our viewers, if you haven't followed our pages, definitely do so. We're broadcasting this on One Play Sports across Facebook, across YouTube, TikTok, Hello, as well as on Instagram. So definitely follow our pages. And tomorrow at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time, we have a very special program where we'll be going down memory lane and celebrating India's triumph at the 1983 World Cup, because tomorrow is the 37th anniversary of India's 1983 World Cup triumph. So definitely join us on our One Play Sports platforms for that special program at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you so much for having joined us for this chat on the development of grassroots level football in India. Until next time, have a good evening and cheers.